Hey, what's up everybody, it's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing an updated version of one of the previous popular decks that we used for Standard, now more effective than ever, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a revised version of our previous Skellige, Onslaught, Raids, and Pirates deck, because we did a poll last week and you guys said that Skellige was the faction you were most excited to play with all the new cards. It also happens to be the faction that I've been playing the most since the expansion, and I have been having a lot of success with our previous deck. So if you're enjoying that list, you can certainly still use it. But I have made a few changes to potentially make it a little bit stronger. Overall, still the same general idea. Play big pirates and trigger endless Voyage in the process to get tons of value, while also having the option to spam raids for tons of damage. But this time, the goal was to make it a little bit more consistent, because although sometimes it may not have been obvious because we have some really good bronze cards, we could have used a few more tools to increase the chances that we play our big gold cards. So arguably the biggest change is that I've removed King Bran, so that means that our veteran cards are not as strong, but I often found that even by the end of the game in round 3, King Bran's deployability was still not that big, and although his passive ability might be really useful, it's still not a great sign if you feel like you want to mulligan an 11 provision cost card. That has the most significant impact on Yustianna because her base power affects how much damage she deals, so that is a little unfortunate because she was pretty awesome in the original list. Even if under ideal circumstances you'd like to wait until round 3 to use her, I often found myself using her as a round 1 finisher, so she won't be quite as effective at doing that. But on the plus side, we've gained Kaer Trolde, which will give us one of several cards, almost all of which work fairly well, if not very well, with the rest of our deck, and it also has Resilience with an order ability that is useful if your opponent wins round 1 and you need to defend against the bleed in round 2. This can help dissuade them from doing that. That, and it's also a way to at least potentially get the Armorsmith that a lot of you guys wanted me to add to the original list. The other big change that I made is that I removed Naval Supremacy, because although it was interesting and it's new, so it's exciting, oftentimes I found that it was more trouble than it was worth, because if you're not careful, this can actually backfire on you to a significant extent. So I replaced that with Vabjorn, that way we have one extra tutor to get a raid out from our deck, and of course we like raids in this deck to deal extra damage, and especially if we do not see Blood Eagle, it also gives us a way to get an additional tutor to play big cards like Hjalmar or Crach, giving us much better consistency than we had before. Then we saved a couple provisions in that process, so I swapped out Primal Savagery, which was possible to get the death blow on, especially if you use the Highland Warlords, but it was definitely awkward and clunky at times. And now we're using Feral Bond instead, which should be much more consistent, because you can use this almost whenever. You may not get that Bloodthirst 3 all that often, but you should still have enough solid warriors to choose from to make this a solid play. And this gives us one more thing we can play on blue coin in round 1 if we don't see the Highland Warlords or the Craite Longship, because if you didn't get any of those cards on blue coin in round 1, then your turn 1 could have been very awkward. So this one's a little more subtle, but it is another way to increase the consistency of our deck by making it more well-rounded. So those are the changes, making the deck a little easier to play. Now let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and they'll go first. Okay, so, I mean, we could even go Scenario plus Seagulls as our round 1 win condition if we'd like. Let's get rid of the Invader, though. Let's see if we get other options here. A little more raids if we go Vabjorn. That might make it a little bit easier to build around. Funeral Boat, I'd like to save Crach if we can. That could be our win condition for round 3. Yustianna's potentially a finisher for this round. I mean, it's workable. I think we can maybe afford to dump one Seagull. Okay. Just a matter of exactly how much are we going to commit in round 1 here. Okay, Rune Mage first. Into a Nilfgaard Runestone. And the Elite. Okay, they do have a pretty significant number of tactics. Saw the Rune Mage, saw the double cross, thought it might have been Assimilate. That might still be the case, but obviously they have some tactics. So we might look to build around raids a little bit. That's going to be kind of tough because we don't have a lot in hand. We're going to be relying pretty heavily on Vabjorn, but at the very least that gives us some carryover value. So I think we could still start with the Warlord here. And there's certainly a chance that he will immediately get answered, but we might even end up going Vabjorn into Blood Eagle to get another Highland Warlord out on our next turn. Okay, now it looks a lot more Assimilate-like. Okay, yeah, that tells us a lot more about their deck. And, I mean, this was a pretty slow turn 1 play here. We could destroy this Mage Torturer, and then things look a little bit more feasible for us. It'd be Seagull, basically, 1, 2, and 3. I mean, under ideal circumstances, we'd already have a Funeral Boat on the board, and that way we can get some extra damage when we do that. I don't think we can afford to do that, though, because otherwise Mage Torturer is going to get boosted and get at least a little bit out of removal range. Maybe we take our chances, though. We have enough damage from other sources that we can still make this work. So, tell you what, we'll take that risk. We'll take that risk. And now, Vabjorn also into Blood Eagle, potentially on that Mage Torturer, suddenly looks a lot better. Yeah, but yeah, that's why I was kind of making the point about the tactics before, because they're going to have more control than perhaps you might otherwise have expected out of an Assimilate deck. It does, however, mean they have not done any additional Assimilate boosts, so we could still go 1, 2, and 3 on a Seagull. We could try again on the Funeral Boat, but I think we know they have enough tactics that that might still not be a great option for us. So, yeah, we'll go Seagull. The tricky thing about this is that this was a nice throwaway pirate way to trigger our scenario, so that we could potentially commit scenario in round 1 without having to sacrifice a Crach or a Yustianna. Now, at this point, we're probably locked into not going scenario round 1, and worst comes to worst, we're just going to have to keep things short. They're going to go Funeral Boat, so using it against us, and that is tricky, because I was kind of thinking next play was going to be Vabjorn into the Blood Eagle. I guess Rune Mage would probably be what we'd go after. Get the death blow on that. I think we have just enough damage to make that happen. But the problem is that's going to give them several procs of damage on Funeral Boat. Unless we use a leader ability charge and go after Funeral Boat instead, this is a little bit risky. You could certainly make the case this is not worth this kind of investment, but we're going to go for it. Doing Blood Eagle so we get the extra Warlord out. Obviously, other options would potentially give us more tempo, but this gives us some carryover value. We get rid of their engine. We do set ourselves up for better long-term value with now a couple of Warlords in round 1. And at this point, I think we have to be willing to probably go Yustianna would be our win condition for the end of this round, although we have now, after having played 2 Warlords, perhaps done enough that even if we don't win this round, we still feel okay about it. Okay, they're going to go Scald. That is not a great option for getting additional value. Yes, it'll proc a single Assimilate, but that's about it. So I'm trying to save 1 and 2 here. I'm willing to use Yustianna. I'm willing to use probably Kaer Trolde near the end of the round as well if we absolutely need to. Can we sneak in a Funeral Boat here? Now that it has some armor, we might be able to do that, and that could increase the reach of Yustianna a little bit if we happen to get 1 card removed from Yustianna. That's not guaranteed. So it is a little bit of a slow play at this stage in the round, but I'll take our chances on it. Okay, they're going to go Mage Torturer. So they're putting the spying on it, and that suggests that one of those tactics, and we definitely have not seen all of them yet, is probably coup de grace. So they want to create extra Funeral Boats that way. If they do, though, playing any tactics at this point, since they haven't answered Funeral Boat, will deal damage to them. So I think what we have to do here is Yustianna alone is probably still not quite enough. So I think we have to go Kaer Trolde here, and that potentially gives us the option of using Order immediately after on Yustianna, and she would probably be our preferred way to use that Order. Let's see what we get here. Unless Great Sword is, if we had gotten it earlier, it would have been fantastic. Might still be the way to go. Longship is not bad if we had done it earlier as well. I think in anticipation of Yustianna, we go for the Great Sword, because that certainly has some nice synergies. Okay, there is the coup. We expected to see it. We'll deal some damage. That'll boost up the Great Sword. They're going to go leader ability as well. Okay, they'll use Yustianna. Obviously, no additional armor on her on their end. So significantly worse. It does, however, set up a decent Funeral Boat. Several of our cards, I think, were doomed Seagull, so those technically didn't go into our graveyard. They didn't get quite as much value as they anticipated. And this is a pretty large gap at this stage. We could still go Yustianna ourselves, get the Greatsword fully healed up, and then go Kaer Trolde on the Greatsword against somebody. I'm still not 100% sure that's enough value. Maybe at this point, especially now that they've committed leader ability, we can rely on this carryover to defend the bleed in round 2. And we have not only benefited from long-term value from playing a couple of Warlords, but that armor is not insignificant on all of our pirates here. So they'll win round 1. We get the extra veteran boost on Yustianna, or strengthening, so that's useful. If they do drive past, we want to have a throwaway, of course. And that would have to be Feral Bond. I think we're okay with that at this stage. Stunning Blow, I mean, it's not a bad card to have for control purposes. Depends how aggressively they try to push here, because if they do, then they are eventually going to force us into playing some big stuff. So maybe we do dump you. Okay, Seagull is a good option for a throwaway-like card. It is also a pirate that can potentially give us a way to trigger scenario without needing to commit all of our big gold pirates. So I think we can settle for this. We'll see how aggressively, how greedily they try to play round 2. They will play. It's Jan. Ooh. Okay, that is kind of interesting. It's a high-tempo play, just because he's an 8-power body. So that does raise some questions as to whether it was just a point slam and that's all they plan to do, or if they're actually trying to go further. I mean, technically, we don't have to catch them on this turn, so we could still play it slow with something like Feral Bond. So that is our lowest commitment option, so maybe we'll do that. And Great Sword is very tempting. Also, get back our Seagull. It's probably a little too early to go Kaer Trolde. I mean, yes, technically that might get us to out-tempo them there, but I think there's just too much potential here for us to... Okay, well, granted, they are going to pass. So yes, it would have been the right play in that case, but I cannot predict the future, and I was too tempted with this combo. Getting a little bit greedy with it, perhaps. For what it's worth, playing a Seagull here will require that we hit our own cards. So that's actually not a great option. Ooh, yeah, that's actually kind of nasty. I mean, we might as well use this and hit Jan. Otherwise, we're just going to miss the opportunity altogether. And that means that even if we do hit 2 of our cards with the Seagull, I think we're still okay here. But this is not ideal in some senses. We do get some carryover, getting some additional Seagulls in our graveyard, though, so it is nice in that sense. But the big thing is that we have saved Scenario, Crach, Yustianna, Defender, Blood Eagle, which we'd like to use to get Hjalmar, and the Invader's not a terrible thing to combine with Crach. We'd like to have at least one extra raid, assuming that we can get Hjalmar out here to trigger his ability. We'd love to see Sukrus, though. Okay, that's... Well, yep, that's what we wanted, so that works. Okay. I mean, assuming we can get Hjalmar with Blood Eagle, then we should be okay, but that is the big thing we're missing here at the moment. So, we'd like to get this down and activate at least the first chapter as quickly as possible to start building up the value on that, or at least the potential value on that. Of course, they might have a heat wave, so it's probably still safest to go Defender first, especially with the extra armor we've accumulated. Makes it a little bit safer. But do we have enough pirates that we can still activate this if we were to, say, play Sukrus next? We have 1, we have 2. Yeah, we should still be fine. Okay, so that's probably what we'll do next. That is a slow build-up for Scenario, but it's the safer option. We'll see if they have a way to deal the Covenants of Steel there. We have not yet seen the second coup, I don't think. So they are presumably going to use this to make a Defender of their own. Technically speaking, that doesn't matter too much to us outside of Blood Eagle, which you might be forcing us to use right now, because other sources of damage can just outright remove Defenders with pure damage fairly easily. But if we need Blood Eagle to get Hjalmar, we might need to do that proactively right now. That would mean we'd also have to go Leader ability to get you into death blow range. I don't love it, but I think it is the safe option. So I think it is pretty clear that next play is going to be... Okay. Also, I mean, we're technically not going to get the deployability on Hjalmar here, which does stink, but the main reason why we're getting him out here so early is so that we can proc his ability when he's on the board of giving boosts to pirates and ships that are adjacent to him when we play a raid, which is going to be Stunning Blow. And as I said, we are potentially just not going to be able to get him out at all. So, yes, they are going to use exactly the play that we expected them to use. Covenant of Steel does take some damage in the process. Otherwise, we're going to end up using Sukrus there, so we could have saved a little bit of armor, but I think we ultimately are going to be okay with that. So it's a sacrifice we were willing to make, ultimately. Let's get the scenario down now, though, because we have 1, 2, 3 pirates left. I mean, technically, we could still go Sukrus now and defend against damage. I don't think that's going to be a huge issue, though. Maybe I'm going to be wrong about that, but if we do this, we'd also, of course, like to see the Longship down in the near future as well, because that helps us get additional armor. Actually had a surprising amount of early round plays. Well, in fact, it's that Hjalmar would usually be much later, but they kind of forced us into doing it a lot earlier than we wanted to do it. Funeral Boat is very good. Very good. But this is one of the reasons why Defenders are not a huge deal for us. The Drakkar gives us amazing reach, but now that we have this down, we'd like to play a pirate next. I think that probably means it is officially Sukrus o'clock. Put him next to the defender, technically speaking. Yeah, usually I think you'd like to have these guys positioned slightly differently. Hjalmar is going to be a little bit tough to get armored guys next to him. I'm going to wait a little bit on this order ability because we're not about to deal extra damage on this turn. Torres. Used to what? Replay. Oh no, the funeral boat. Thought they were going to go defender. Okay, and it's a good reason for us to not use our order ability then, because if we had put it on the defender, then they could have completely removed it there. But now, let's probably get Crach down, because he is an engine, so we want to play stuff near him, and what we're going to do here is we are going to break this Covenant to Steel Sukrus combo, so they will be able to deal damage to Covenant to Steel, but that means by playing Crach here, we can sneak some people in between Crach and Sukrus, so that's what we're really looking for. So, no, not you. You. Give you guys some extra armor. The extra order on you, which we will probably use on our next turn, which should be enough to get rid of Covenant to Steel. Okay, it's Brothans. What direction are they going in here? I mean, they're going to have to make a Seagull, which is not exactly ideal. Well, they can hit other Seagulls, which is not terrible, to tell you the truth. Okay, so now we can hit somebody with Crach, but first let's target Covenant to Steel with at least one of these infusions. Actually, I really don't like those Seagulls popping up, because we are about to play Yustianna, and probably will still play Yustianna in this pocket here, but it does mean that she's going to waste a lot more damage. But yes, it's going to obviously reduce their score, but we're trying to make sure we get rid of Covenant to Steel here. Or you could go for double infusion. That might end up being overkill. If it does survive, then we'll still have Stunning Blow, and Longship is going to have to be one of our last plays, but we'll put it next to Crach to get additional value there. So we'll do this. At least gives you some additional armor. We'll go here, and this is where usually you'd like to see this next to Crach, or rather next to Hjalmar, to get the extra value from the huge armor. You very much survived. I'm surprised there, but you will potentially take some extra damage from... unless the Cataclysm completely misses you. Okay, it's Terra Nova. They have made a or they've given Spying to Defender. They'll go Funeral Boat, though. It's a little bit late for that, but they'll give it a shot. So now, I mean, we still don't have a great target for the Drakkar to go after. So we're going to go with the Longship. We put Yustianna in this pocket. So basically, we can no longer put Longship next to both Sukrus and Crach. So we could put the Longship here. We'd still clash. We'd remove you. You would have enough armor that you would still live. Otherwise, we put you next to Hjalmar. We at least have something with armor to get the boost from Hjalmar's ability. But I think we're doing okay here with points on our side of the board. So I think we can settle for that. And this second order is probably not going to be that big for us. I mean, I guess now that you did take damage from the Cataclysm, could have taken that chance, but it's going to be Stunning Blow on Covenant to Steel, which is more than enough to remove, and then we'll just use the Drakkar order ability on whatever else they put out here. They get Hjalmar. They can clash with our defender, which is no longer protected by Sukrus, so they will get damage there. They get one more of the Seagulls out. But, oh, also, Crach, sure, he has his order ability now. So I think what we'll do in that case, okay, we can get a little more value out of this. So we'll go Stunning Blow, removes. Again, ideally, under other circumstances, the positioning here just didn't quite work out for us. We would potentially have gotten 10 boosts from Yustianna if we had Hjalmar right there, but we got rushed into playing a little bit earlier, and that kind of forced us into playing things in positions we didn't really want to see them in. But now, let's see. So if we go... I think we basically just go for the biggest target here. So there's the most potential for you to get hit multiple times. We'll hit you at least once there. And naturally, you don't take any damage from the Cataclysm, but took our chances, so we've a large enough lead. They'll go Vilgefortz. Horribly designed card. Complete RNG. Doesn't matter, though, because it's not enough to catch us. We'll hold on for the win. Alright, so going up against Syndicate here. And they'll go first. Okay, so in general, we don't want to see the Invader in round 1. That's basically just for potential Crach synergies, and even then is not one of our preferred cards. We could go Warlord and then some raids. Seagull gives us some character potential. Could use Endless Voyage if we absolutely needed to, but that would require that we play Seagull. Okay, that's fine. Not a huge commitment, but it would require that we play either Covenant of Steel or Hjalmar, which is not great. So we'd really prefer to rely very heavily on the raids here, and I think we have enough that we can at least put up a fight with them. Okay, Mutants Maker. Obviously, nothing to destroy there. So they're presumably going to be a crimes deck. They're lined pockets. So we'd like to get a funeral boat out here early, especially if they're going to play crimes. That means they're going to take damage, even when it's their turn. Warlord first might be the safer choice, because this, especially when it does not yet have any armor, is quite vulnerable. So let's do this. And it'll give us a little bit more time to react to whatever they're trying to do here. Okay, like the Eternal Fire Disciple, that is a good card for us to go after. And they're going to go wide. That gives us a lot of potential to get extra damage from the funeral boat. So lots of tempting options here. Otherwise, the Feral Bond would have been the next play. Just get some stuff damaged potentially and help set up the funeral boat. But we could even go the leader ability charge to hit you and then make this a little bit of a safer funeral boat play. Otherwise, I mean, Seagull here. I mean, that is so good with funeral boat. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit greedy. Let me do that. Then slightly safer funeral boat, but it is still susceptible, absolutely. But now, if it does, okay, well, that's why it's susceptible. That's why it's susceptible to getting answered with damage. Okay, well, it required that they commit Freak Show, so I guess that's something. But if it had lived, we would have had a pretty fantastic Seagull play or Stunning Blow, anything like that. I mean, Stunning Blow, for what it's worth here, is still quite good. Almost enough to remove, but not quite so. So maybe we might still go for that. Otherwise, we could bide our time a little bit with a Feral Bond, just see what we get from that. Maybe we'll give that a shot. And it has Veil now, doesn't it? Okay, for what it's worth, the Veteran is difficult for the Freak Show to deal with. That might be reason enough to go for that. Otherwise, we use you, which I don't particularly love. Well, I mean, we could put it on the Disciple, I suppose. It would get damaged eventually. Yeah, we'll just keep it simple. Do this. Okay, Fizz Tech. So it's not just damaging specials. Okay, we don't really care about you removing the Warlord. So yeah, let's go Stunning Blow here. Drops Freak Show down to 1, and that means we could go Seagull 1, 2, 3, and whatever other combination you'd like to remove Freak Show. Okay, they're giving him some more monies here. Okay, well, this is interesting. More poison than I would have expected. More than I would have expected, for sure. Let's go with the Seagull now, though. It does mean that at this point we are definitely not going to want to use Scenario in this round. So if this round goes really long, we're going to have to end up passing eventually. But let's do... I guess we'll hit the Disciple. I think we have enough damage with some of our specials here. In fact, you're 5 damage? Okay. Yeah, we'll give ourselves the option to remove you. Let's go 1, 2, and 3. I'll get out some Seagulls. And no more Freak Show to deal with anymore. Okay. You at 8 power are out of removal range unless we were to commit with our next leader ability charge as well, which I would really rather not do. Otherwise, there's going to be Gutting Slash on this failed experiment. I think we might just look to pass pretty soon, though. So at this point, we're basically looking at Gutting Slash and Stunning Blow being the only 2 things that we are comfortable with playing, and that's 11-ish points across the 2 of them, and that is only just barely enough to catch them, and assuming they do anything else, like get the value from this, then that's not going to be enough without forcing us to commit cards we don't want to commit at this stage. Okay, so they did play 1 more card than us, and if they dry pass, then Kaer Trolde is the perfect throwaway card here, because we'll still have the resilience. Feral Bond is a card we're okay with playing, and it helps us put up points. That's the one tricky thing with the raids, is we need to outscore them. That requires that we have points on our side of the board. So these alone will never be enough. So for that reason, we might even dump Gutting Slash Yustianna. I mean, it's good to start to develop her armor a bit. I think this is a pretty big hand. So if they push aggressively, then, and, okay, well, that might just be a throwaway of their own. So that also has resilience. Let's use Kaer Trolde here. Answer their resilience with our resilience, and the difference here is that ours also comes with a body, whereas theirs does not, and this is a nice setup card if they are trying to push long term. And they won't. Okay, so that works totally fine for us. We will now have 1 card advantage in round 3, and we'll both have carryover from our artifacts here. Okay, and so we draw into Crach. That was, I think, really our only big card we had left, other than Blood Eagle, which would have been a way to get Crach. We do still have a Funeral Boat in our deck. That would be kind of nice to get that out. Otherwise, Feral Bonds. I mean, we want to have at least 1 raid to proc the boost from Hjalmar, or at least have the option of making that happen. I think we might get rid of you. We do need a turn 1 play, but I think between Covenant to Steel, Sukrus, and Scenario, we have plenty of those in this round. There is Funeral Boat. Okay, I think this is just about ideal. The Invader, we could have potentially seen if we could swap that out for a Longship, I suppose, but once again, we just have so many early round plays. So the tricky thing is the poison, because I think we do still go Covenant to Steel first here, and then we can protect it with Sukrus, but that only protects from damage, not from poison. So that's probably our chief concern. Purification, are they okay, well, okay. It's no longer a Defender. Fair enough. I was playing it first so we could use our Scenario a little more safely in case they had a heat wave. Now, if they do have a heat wave, all right, fair enough. There's nothing we can really do to stop them. So we might just get this down as quickly as possible because we want to get to at least Chapter 1 as soon as we can to get that Death Wish ability on most of their cards. I mean, for what it's worth, we could use Kaer Trolde and absolutely get rid of Kalkstein, but now that they've gotten rid of our, or at least removed the Defender status, not really sure there's too much of a threat that he poses, at least not in the immediate future. Whereas Junior, be a card we might want to go after. I mean, we'll be able to get our boat back. It'll not be quite as strong, but once we trigger Chapter 2, it will return. So Junior is a card we'd like to remove. We can potentially go Kaer Trolde here if we really want to, but I think what we really like to do is get Sukrus down if possible, because we want to be playing Hjalmar, Yustianna, and Crach. All those cards benefit from having Sukrus down, so I think we're still trying to sneak you in here, and we might even put you next to Defender. I know it doesn't really change much at the moment. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get rid of Junior. It's a little bit overkill, definitely, in that it was more damage than we needed to remove him. But I was a little bit concerned about what he was going to be doing. Okay, Azor Javed will obviously create a few defenders here. And they'll boost those defenders. Okay, interestingly, with the Conjurer's Candle. Because I was about to say those might have been good targets for Funeral Boat to get rid of, because our random damage would eventually get rid of those guys. Now, I mean, they could end up being Gutting Slash targets instead, or Stunning Blow targets instead. It does make it a little more awkward for things like Hjalmar, who at this point is probably going to have to go after this Scarab. I think we'll go probably Crach next, unless the tricky thing is getting Hjalmar next to... We'd love to keep Hjalmar next to this Covenant of Steel if possible, so then we get a very sizable boost from that. So I think maybe we will do this now. It is definitely overkill for the time being, yes. But now, if we can go either Yustianna or Crach over here. Okay, what are they doing this time? They're really committed to going after our boat. Honestly, I think that's okay. We have Hjalmar, who is practically a Scenario by himself, and with Sukrus down here to support Hjalmar and Crach and Yustianna, I think we're just going to demonstrate how effective this can be, even if our Scenario is getting shut down. So it's a question of, do you go Crach here, or do you go Yustianna? I think you do prefer Crach. So that way you can get armor on all these cards, which is useful. It does, however, mean that we're only going to have one armored unit next to Hjalmar, other than Hjalmar himself. Ooh, Shora is kind of terrifying, and they are about to spend a lot. That's going to get rid of Sukrus if they continue to spend here. So you're at 8. Can we find a way to remove not only Defender, but also Ishora on this turn? That's not easy. If we had our boat still, then yes, it absolutely would have been possible, but all right, now we see if we can still pull this off here. So I think it's going to have to be Crach. Only option is to hit you, of course. And then it's going to be Yustianna. And then we're just going to see what else we can hit. with our leader ability afterward. See if that makes a difference. Unfortunately, not a huge one, because we were not able to get rid of the Scarab. We did remove a lot of their other stuff. Oh, Cataclysm almost bailed us out. This is going to be their spender. They need to spend just 3 more coins. They're going to get 1 coin from this. Are they 1 coin shy here? No, they have just enough. Assuming they spend all these, which they presumably will. Yeah. Well, actually, oh, did we just get... Did we just get a Seagull out? I didn't even realize it, and that took the hit for us. All right, we would like to get a funeral boat out here, and we could put that next to Crach. So I think we might even do that now. Because at this point, it is basically just us playing things next to Crach, and we've already chosen a card to go in this valuable Crach Sukrus pocket. We went with Yustianna there. That's no longer possible to get the adjacent units for both of those guys, but I think this is a very decent backup plan, and they realize at this point there's no way they can stop us. Even after they shut down our scenario, they still forfeit. So there's a look at an updated and more well-rounded version of the Skellige Pirates Raids deck that we used for Standard. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. This week's seasonal event doesn't really lend itself to having decks using the new cards, so we might stick to more Standard this week, but I'll give that a closer look, and we'll see. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.